Good evening. For those who don't know me, I'm Harley Rockoff, and I am a founder of Temple Beth Ohr. And I'm still a member. I believe there are still two more founders that are among us, and that would be Ellie Ursus and Francis Gilbart. And I don't know if they're able to be here, but I want to recognize them as founders. All the other founders have passed away. But it makes me remember a song that was sung by a cantorial student that we had, whose father was named Cantor Cutler and is a well-known cantor and composer. And he wrote a song that said, "Standing on the shoulders of those who came before us." And at first, when I moved to La Mirada in 1955, I didn't know anybody, and that was much the way most people were, because this was formerly all olive tree groves, and they started putting in the tracks, and I moved into the second tract here. Didn't know anybody, just like most of the people that moved there. And it turned out that most of the people moving there were young families with young children. And at that time, in the mid-50s, there was no postal delivery. But they did arrange to have postal pickup at a railway station on Stage Road in town, with a market basket, whereas now Pep Boys on the corner of Rosecrans and Valley View. But there they had bulletin boards, and we found a card at one of them that said some Jewish families wanted to get together. And it turned out we had 12 families that showed up at the home of Florence and Martin Klein. And that was the beginning. And as the group grew and our signs brought in more people, we decided to start a Sunday school for the children. And we had volunteer teachers, and we met in the homes. And we became the La Mirada Jewish Community Center. And we became a congregation, and we decided to call ourselves Congregation Temple Beth Ohr, the House of Light. And we met in several churches, and they were very, very kind. And then we even met one time in a dance studio in Norwalk on Front Boulevard. But so much for that. We were just wandering around. And then we finally decided we got up to about 40 members, and we decided we gotta have a place of our own. And then the piece of property where we are now became available. The man who owned it had it zoned as a gas station. He decided he didn't want a gas station, so he had it for sale. And he said if we would petition the Board of Supervisors, we had to go to the county board because La Mirada did not exist as a city. He said if we could go to the county board of supervisors and get them to okay a zoning variance, that we could buy the property and he would help us buy it. And that's what happened. And after a while, we raised enough guarantors that we were going to put up a building. And the first phase of our building was just the classrooms and the kitchen, the library, and the social hall. The sanctuary did not exist, and the lobby did not exist. And so at that time, we only had this one room, which was the social hall, the sanctuary, and everything else. We had an active school, and then we decided that we needed to start having clergy. And so we hired a part-time rabbi, and then that evolved into full-time rabbis. And over the years, we've had several rabbis and several cantors. Full-time rabbi was Rabbi Halevi. Very learned man in his 60s, had been a chaplain during World War II, and he was very versed in Judaism. But all of our families were in their 20s and 30s, and somehow it wasn't a happy marriage. And as presidents, one of the hardest things I had to do was go tell him that we were not renewing his contract. But when you're president, you got to do all kinds of things. And over the years, we've had a number of interesting rabbis. Our first rabbi, part-time rabbi, Rabbi Flegg, was a stockbroker and who dabbled as a rabbi when he felt like it. I remember one rabbi in particular. I was president, it was during the Vietnam War. And this man was adamantly active against the war. And he would stand up from the podium and say, from the bema, and say, if any of you don't want to go in the war, come see me and I'll tell you how to get out of it. Well, what he meant was he'd tell you how to get illegally into Canada. But I had to stand up as president and say, those are the sentiments of the rabbi and not necessarily the sentiments of the board or the temple members. And a lot of things happened during those formative years, and the temple grew until we had over 300 member units at our temple, and we decided we were beginning to outgrow it because on any large event, we were too many, we would go to the Carpenter's Hall in Buena Park, particularly for high holidays. And then because we had a lot of people showing up for high holidays, our members grew. So we had to go to the County Board of Supervisors and get a zoning variance. And we did that, and the key piece of information to help them give us this variance was that we had a letter from the church across the street that permitted us to park there. And they have been very, very good neighbors. And from time to time, we've made donations to them. So I remember when we paid off our first mortgage on the building, we had a party. And I ceremoniously burned a copy of a facsimile of the mortgage. We put the ashes in a little silver box, and then one of our members donated. That was not a good decision. And the reason was, as soon as we burned that mortgage, our donations dropped way down. People said, you don't have a mortgage? You don't need as much money. Well, it's not true. We did a lot of things that still required money. But over the years, we furnished, and we came into the sanctuary and the lobby that we now have. And it served us, our purpose, very well. Recently, we've gone through remodeling, and those of you here may be seeing it for the first time. Temple Beth Ohr is fortunate to have some second-generation families and even third-generation families. And I, for one, remember the bar and bat mitzvah of my children and their confirmation, and even the bat mitzvah of my wife. And so I remember that very well. People ask me, why have you been a member for 65 years? Well, I have to tell you that, the congregation is very warm and welcoming. When you join Temple Beth Ohr, you're not just joining a congregation, it's like a family or a large havurah. And I've been very active in the temple over the number of years. 6 times I was president of the temple. And between my wife and myself, we probably have held every board position. And I'm pleased to have been a part of it. And I congratulate those of you who put this event together. Thank you. And I applaud all of those who are here in your support to Temple Beth Ohr. Thank you.